Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack-It Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about prime-time matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
This is the Black Gold Banneret Podcast. Now, here are your hosts, Jeff Sharon and Eric Lopez.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. I'm Jeff Sharon, along with Eric Lopez, after another busy week of UCF sports, that, including off-season stuff. Eric, it's nice to start the show with some really good news from the basketball front, isn't it? Right, Eric?
It is, but I'm more excited about an interview we're going to air later on. This has been a busy, it's funny, it's basketball season, and yet it's still football season, even though there is no more college football. It's still a busy football.
It's always football season. Football season never ends. We got a lot to talk about. That interview Eric was talking about, McKenzie Milton. We had him on, in case you haven't seen it, we interviewed him earlier this week, it was actually this past Saturday. We put it up on our YouTube channel. We're going to drop it in here for you in case you missed it. McKenzie, of course, playing what we believe, of course, will be his final game in the Bounce House in the Hula Bowl this coming Saturday. So we got his takes on that and his career, Otis Anderson as well. Of course, those two were really good friends. So really thankful to McKenzie for his time, and great interview too. Really, really cool. Wait till you hear about it. Bryson Turner will join us a little bit later to talk about the spring sports that are getting ready to start this week. But joining us now to start things off and to talk about the big story, the student of the game himself, Kyle Nash, is in the house. And we're going to talk a little UCF men's basketball after a 10-point victory over the Memphis Tigers at home. One that they really needed, Kyle. First of all, how are you, man? I see the smile on your face after covering a dub from last night.
Listen, well, no, I mean, a pair of dubs, as I had the ladies the night before, but like,
right.
I'm smirking mostly because I've never seen you two with the reputation of the old married couple, of course. I've never seen so masterfully use a win as a backhanded smack back to Elo of, hey, I told you it wasn't time to burn the program.
Yeah, we'll get into all that. We'll get into all that.
Well,
are you paying rent, Kyle? By the way, you're at the arena so often. I feel like it's your home away from home.
Listen, you joke about that, but I commented the other day to my wife. I'm like, maybe not in mileage, because I do drive to Jacksonville to cover the Jacks and talk to Shaq Griffin, but certainly in number of trips taken. Oh, it's definitely Edition Financial Arena for the past 2 months.
Well, this game, as far as this game was concerned, this one, the Knights needed, and they got it. Mm-hmm. Right? And let's be real, a little bit of help, 2 key Memphis players out for this game, but I don't care. All right. Memphis is one of 2 American teams ahead of UCF in the net rankings right now. They get the 10-point victory, obviously. Memphis has the struggles that Penny was having earlier in the season. They seem to have kind of figured them out, and they had won 3 in a row. And this also snapped a 5-game winning streak for Memphis against UCF. But they get the W. And what for you, looking back at how everything went down, what was the key? What was the difference in this game compared to the loss a week ago against Temple?
Well, I mean, let's travel in time back to the previous week. Everything that was said about that game, about how they need to find identity, about how UCF needs to understand better who they are, and they also need to come out with more vigor, which I would argue is part of said identity, all happened. This isn't like the Temple game where like, hey, we need to get more assists in there and then maybe the ball will be distributed more and you could win. No, they did that and still lost. Here, everything they tried to do over the week happened. And I would argue that trying to repair one's identity as this team is constructed is a far more difficult task. I'm never going to say COVID is a positive, but I will say that there is a silver lining in that Tulsa game getting canceled because they were able to focus more on them to prepare for this game. And listen, I know what you said about the big players being out. DeAndre Williams and Earl Timberlake. I was going to say Earl Strickland. I'm like, who the hell is that? Earl Timberlake.
You didn't say Justin Timberlake. Anyway.
No, I prefer my songs to be more in a bass clef. Thank you. But but at the end of the day, I feel like those two guys being out is huge. But UCF having a double-digit win and being as dominant as they were at times, there's a chance maybe, air quotes, they could have still pulled a close upset, if not lost a very close game, where if you were listening to the scuttlebutt going into said game, it was supposed to be a dish smackdown. So a lot of that going on. And hey, the coming out party of one Darius Johnson, a big deal here. You'll certainly read about that as you read my article when it goes up on the blackandgoldbanneret.com, talking about him rising. Sure, the coaches and players, Bakke and Johnny Dawkins, were both coy about it. Well, he's been doing that in practice. Okay, well, he did it in a game tonight, ladies and gentlemen. There was some impact, and that's going to open up some possibilities for what this team can do with future conflicts and adversity that they may see on the court later in the season.
Well, he was key coming off the bench. They kind of took the wraps off of him in this game, right? So 24 minutes off the bench. 4 of 12 shooting, not the best shooting day. 2 of 6 from three-point range, but 3 assists, 2 rebounds. Did turn the ball over 4 times, but I thought that a lot of the things that he did that was key didn't show up in the stat sheet because, especially in the second half, he was doing most of the ball handling, and Darius Perry was playing off the ball.
Right.
And when Memphis went into their 40 minutes of hell mode, where they try to turn the game into a track meet, I thought that he was really key and showed like some veteran instincts out there in slowing the game down going into the half court and formulating some good looks for his teammates. No.
And I feel compelled to tell about one particular possession that I think kind of emulates and exemplifies all of that, right? He was handling the ball. They were setting up the offense. Bakke comes to the top of the key as if they're about to run a play, and Darius waves him off. First of all,
that's a freshman waving off a fifth-year senior. You don't see that.
Team captain who's literally about a foot taller than him. Like, it checks.
And did you see the look on Mbakke's face? I saw it. Courtside, he was like,
he's like,
what?
And he waves him again. So he backs off. And what does the young man do? As the shot clock winds down, takes it to the hole to pick up the bucket. And I asked Bakke about that, and I believe his precise quote is, for a freshman to do that, that's big time. So,
big confidence booster. Big confidence booster.
And just to show the leadership you want from a point guard, regardless of his age.
Eric, I was told by you that the season was over last week. So, is the season still over in your mind?
If they lose on Saturday at USF, it is. That's great. This is great. Beating Memphis is fine. I would argue that Memphis still has some problems, and it probably starts with the guy with the suit and tie calling plays there. He apparently can recruit, but maybe can't coach. Whatever. That's Memphis's problem. I would argue their best head coach is actually on their assistant, Larry Brown. But here's the thing. This is a big win, but this team is not consistent. They got to prove they're consistent, and you cannot, under any circumstances, lose on Saturday at USF. And it's nothing to do with, hey, it's the NCAA rival. No.
That's pretty obvious considering South Florida is number 256 in the net.
Thank you.
Right.
That is abysmal. And that will crush. I mean, the net rankings are going to drop even if you win by 50 in that game. Mm-hmm. You lose that game, woo! That's like a missile. So no, this team this is a game by game situation here. This is the problem. The league is so down this year that you're playing USF twice. You're playing teams like Tulane, who is playing well, but their net rankings is in the 150s. These are all like little bombs that could just torpedo your resume if you drop a game or two. So no, the margin for error is still very thin. It was big to get the Memphis win. I agree with you, Kyle. I think the postponement of the Tulsa game was huge. This team needed to regroup in the worst way in the last week, but they got to bring it out now consistently. And they have struggled in Tampa the last couple of times they've traveled there. So I think this is not a time to celebrate and things. That this is still on the edge here, in my opinion.
Well, let's look at these net rankings here. Okay, Houston is the number 1 team from the American at 4 in the net, and I thought it was interesting that Joe Lunardi in one of his more recent bracketologies, he didn't even have Houston in his top 16,
correct?
Despite them being 4th in the net, which is really surprising to me.
Well, it's not because, and again, this is why numbers, you can't depend everything on numbers. Houston is not the same team right now that they were in November. They have had injuries, including to their best player, Marcus Sasser. So I think Joe Lunardi is basically adjusting it, and I think the committee will do the same because they've done this in the past. In fact, if you remember the year that Cincinnati was number 1 in the country, and then Kenyon Martin broke his leg,
right?
And that's, I think the committee got
my
burned.
Nets drafted him.
Your Nets, and he had a good career. In fairness, he helped you get
very
to the
good
final.
career. I loved him with the Nets. Anyway, go ahead.
The committee got burned on that because they didn't adjust them and they got lost in the early rounds. And I think since then the committee's made a conscious effort to, like, if an injury, if the team is not the same without that player, then they'll drop. Now Houston has plenty of time to prove that they're still very good and could be a top 16 seed without Marcus Sasser. But I think that's why Joe did that. If not speaking on his behalf, but look, I mean, UCF. You mentioned the bubble; they're in that first 4 out and things. The Memphis win helps. The Miami win helps. Michigan, you need Michigan to figure things out soon, please, Jawan, help. Really would love to have got that FSU game on the schedule too. By the way, we might have to ask Coach Dawkins. Is there any chance, please, Coach? Anyway. But look, I mean, that's the league. I mean, it's a tough year for the league. I think it's a 2 bid, maybe 3 at best 3.
I gotta update everything here. Lunardi's latest bracketology came out yesterday. This is up to yesterday. He does have Houston back in it as 15.
There you go.
He's got UCF in the next 4 out, along with Michigan. Interestingly enough. Let's see, what else? He's got Memphis as one of the last 4 in.
Well, that was actually, I know that I saw that. That was prior to the Memphis UCF game.
Right. So you think he might, he or the committee may flip that now?
Well, I mean, he might. I mean, he may flip it, or he may just take Memphis out and brings whoever the next team was that into the field. But it's, again, this is January. I think we're still a few weeks away from really having a better grasp of the field. I think right now in February, right now it's still too early. We're still early in conference play from that standpoint. But again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Do not lose on Saturday in Tampa. Do not lose. And again, because 256, man, I'm telling you, I've seen this with the numbers. It will kill your resume. So can this team be consistent, Kyle? That's my question to you. Are you confident they can show up and be consistent on Saturday? I love the game with Darius. Darren Green was solid, but I'll be honest, there was parts during that game in the Memphis, and we were talking in the chat room about it's like, who's going to be that next guy that steps up? Mahan struggled again. The consistency. That's my concern, Kyle.
Well, when I was about to ask you what you meant by consistency, and if you're talking about play for individuals, yeah, that has been a struggling point. But as far as this team, they have shown the ability as a team to be consistent. What threw it off, I think, and this is going to be something that's going to sound odd. And like I said, Drew, I mentioned Drew making this point after the Michigan game that it was a negative because you can't repeat it. I think the Michigan game was a negative because they were trying to repeat it. This is not a team that wins basketball games with 2 guys breaking 20. What you saw against Memphis is how UCF is best suited to win games. Multiple dudes with, what was it I wrote or said here? Multiple dudes, double digits, 1 off the bench. I believe it said exactly that at the last Black and Gold Banneret podcast. And my friends, what in the bleeding earth just happened last night? I'm not saying.
I'm going to add to that. Defensively, intensity-wise, they brought it too.
Yeah,
defensively.
Yeah,
and I think that's the other missing piece of the identity.
100%.
Ever since Johnny Dawkins stepped on this campus, their identity has been defense. And I thought the Memphis game was their best performance, considering the opponent, the talent level, the stakes. I thought their defensive intensity, protecting the rim, forcing turnovers, getting in people's faces, contesting shots. I thought that was the most encouraging thing for me. If they can bring that every night, offense comes and goes, right? Shots some nights go in, some nights don't. But you can bring your defense every night. And if they do that, that's where they can make it to the tournament and go on a run here.
100%. Darius Perry called for it after the Temple loss in the post game, and they delivered. Yeah, they looked like a different team opening that game. Go ahead, Jeff.
Now, I was going to say, let's look at this box score here for a second.
Please.
Because UCF got out-rebounded by 41-37. They got out-offensive rebounded 17-11.
That's your key.
They got out-blocked 6-5. And even though they did force Memphis into 19 turnovers, UCF did have 16 turnovers of their own. So I could make the argument that, okay, they didn't really play the optimal game here and still won by double digits.
Sure. Well, and that's how you balance out. They didn't have the optimal game. And if you're a Memphis fan, you balance that out. Well, we could have won because we had our guys out. But I'll see that and raise you this. Remember, I deal numbers and such for a living, and numbers can lie. The offensive rebounding advantage that you see for Memphis is clearly the reason, that they rebounded UCF. But you could put that down to a couple of exchanges where Memphis had multiple offensive rebounds. I remember two of them in particular had 3 attempts on the same particular series, so to speak, and failed to score. And I don't think that's as much a rebounding disadvantage, rather, but more speaking to Elo's point about defense being the bigger deal there.
I wish we could go back and I wish that you don't have to do math and to figure out possessions in basketball, because to me, the offensive rebound, all those offensive rebounds equated to one empty possession.
Yeah, or two. I think
Memphis.
it was 2 in this case.
2 empty possessions. So, all right. So you talked about South Florida, Eric. They're struggling. Number 256. It is a road game. Folks are going to be heading down there. But this is a game that you just have to take care of business, right?
Yeah, don't let them hang around. I mean, that was the thing that was disappointing about the Temple game. You had a couple times in that Temple game where you could have put
this game's on ESPNU, by the way. The Memphis game was on ESPN Plus. The South Florida game is going to be on ESPNU. What's up with that?
Competing resources.
And it's also called counter programming to the National Football League playoffs. Trust me, they're not putting marquee college basketball teams aren't going up against the NFL playoffs. Okay, who can we throw out there as a sacrificial lamb? Hey, there's UCF and USF. Let's throw that one in.
Well, South Florida is 5-10, 0-3 in the conference. They've opened up with a 17-point loss to Houston at home, a 14-point loss at Tulane, and a 12-point loss at SMU. So they're off.
Not an easy start to the conference schedule, but that makes me more nervous because they're going to win a game or two at some point in the conference. And again, my guess is if they're going to have a crowd at all this year, Saturday night's usually when they're going to probably show up for that game. They're going to wear the slime jerseys and all that. And
God, I hope not. I hate those things.
Well, they are. That's whatever reason they've decided that's their traditional look for whatever when they play UCF. So, but look.
I wouldn't call it traditional, but anyway.
I'm glad you said it.
UCF's got to be ready and focused to play. Bring that defensive intensity. Put them away. Don't let them hang around. Give them confidence. Again, this is a big game because you cannot lose this game because this will crush your net rankings. This will crush your resume. Drew Glukoff, I think, is going to cover that game for us. He better bring us a win, Kyle. He better bring us a win.
Hey, well, listen. I can't promise anything when it comes to Drew. He's a bit of a loose cannon, and we love him for it. But you're talking a lot of obstacle with that USF game. and I'm going to pair this with ECU. I see opportunity. Okay. What's the way you're looking for that consistency, Elo? What's the way to get Brandon Mahan more involved? You get him trending upward on a cycle. And when you have a game that's not a huge marquee, tough defense, you expect kind of a game like Memphis, you give Brandon Mahan the opportunity to start climbing up that ladder to where he could be useful again against the tougher opponents. I'm not asking for Michigan, but I am asking for something where he's going to be a threat and a contributing factor in the game in question. And listen, at the end of the day, let's not confuse inconsistency also with a change in identity, right? This is a group that can start with different guys. Again, we saw Isaiah Adams in the starting lineup, if I remember correctly, Jeff. You know, all that going on. Say what you will about Mahan not being involved. It's one thing when he only has like 3 shots or something. Now, granted, Memphis, to your point, Elo, is absolutely correct. 2 for 9 ain't going to do it.
No, that's not. But you mentioned opportunity. You mentioned the magic word, opportunity. The next 3 games at USF, at ECU, Tulane. Opportunity. 3 wins right there for the taking. Get 3 wins right there. You're going to be favored in all 3 games. We're going to find out. We're going to find out in the next 3 games. Is this team finding themselves? Are they going to be consistent performers? Is this an NCAA tournament team, or are they going to be continuing to be up and down? We're going to find out.
And by the way, I not that I want to speak too soon or anything here, but so that Temple loss, by the way, looks less and less hurtful.
No, it's bad. It's still bad.
The more
still
Temple
bad.
plays,
yeah,
they continue to move up in the net rankings. They're 3-2 in the conference, and by the way, they won at Tulsa. I think Temple's actually better than people think.
Tulsa's had 2 players just disqualified from their team because they're not academically eligible. So
here's what Temple did. They moved up 5 spots. They're 10-6. They moved up 5 spots in the net to 118. Tulane, by the way, who beat Wichita State last night in Wichita on a charge call in the final seconds.
Terrible.
Moved up to 124, and they're 7-7. So, you know, the league as a whole is down. Yeah, it's down. But it feels like the bottom is kind of coming up a little bit. That's going to help UCF a little bit, no?
If Temple can crack the top 100, that's the key magic number there. If they can crack the top 100, that definitely softens the blow. What you try to avoid.
By the way, they've moved up 40 spots in KenPom since they beat UCF.
Yeah, well, we helped in that. I mean,
that's true too.
Yeah, that's the beauty of numbers. You can lose and help your resume at the same time. That's the key. Great top 100. The bottom line is win games. Now, you might get a mulligan here if we're going to say Temple's a mulligan. Hopefully, yeah, I agree. Keep winning, Temple. Keep winning because that softens the blow. But you can't lose to USF. You can't lose to East Carolina. You can't. These are the games you have to avoid. Like, but you can't drop these games. Like, you can lose to Houston. It's not the end of the world. You can lose to SMU. It's not the end of the world. You lose to a USF game with the resume they have, or a East Carolina. That hurts a lot. You can't recover from that. So that's the key.
I'll say this in Jeff's defense because he's been very civil and there hasn't been much bickering today. So I have to bring a little conflict to have some good radio here, gentlemen. And what I'll say is this, Eric, if that is your biggest criticism and thing to worry about, then guess what? Things are trending in the right direction.
Yeah.
Just give me consistency like the young ladies have.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later with Bryson as UCF women's basketball got off to got a huge win against Houston. We'll break that down in the third segment. But
I got some history to talk about there. 3 decades.
Yes, quite a bit. So the student of the game himself, Kyle Nash, joining us here to talk men's basketball. Kyle, where can people reach out to you if they want to know more about what you're doing?
Well, as always, of course, you'll find me here hanging out with the Black and Gold Banneret. And I'm not going to say it wrong while I prop it here because I don't want to look like a dumbass in front of the boss again. But, of course, you can find my work on blackandgoldbanneret.com. Find me on Twitter at the SOTG. Find me on Instagram as the same, the SOTG. Find me on Facebook as the student of the game with all the good work there. Gentlemen, a lot of fun. I like that you two behaved today.
I mean, it's early in the show. I mean,
we only just got started. Listen, we're gonna. Hey, can you stick around to talk women's hoops too?
Cool. Yeah, no, I'm all about it.
Okay. All right. Stick around. When we get back, our interview with McKenzie Milton, who talked with us last Saturday. We're going to replay that interview for you. And when we return, and then after that, Bryson Turner's going to join us. We're all going to talk women's basketball because that team is on a roll right now.
And a new number 10 on the football team, by the way.
Yes, huge game coming up. And we have plenty more to talk about with football as well when we talk about the transfer portal and everything. Lots of stuff to get to here in this next segment. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by Cars.com. With over 2 million vehicles and 50,000 more added every day, Cars.com will match you with the perfect car for you, your budget, your life, your style. And if you're ready to say goodbye to your current car, Cars.com will get you an instant offer to cash it in. Just start by entering your license plate and get matched with a local dealer who will write you the check. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, just go to Cars.com. It's magical.
Welcome to the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Jeff Sharon here along with Eric Lopez and Bryson Turner. And this is something that I personally and we collectively have been waiting. We couldn't wait to do this at some point. And finally, we're finally making it happen. You can tell how actually nervous I am actually doing this. Joining us now is, let's just call it like it is. Probably the greatest player in UCF history, arguably. And not just that, but one of the most inspirational people you're ever going to come across. Quarterback for UCF from 2016 through 2020, just finished his collegiate career at Florida State and will be participating in the Hula Bowl. His last opportunity to play on the field at the Bounce House will be at the Hula Bowl Saturday, January 15th. Tickets are available now, and make sure you get there because this is our opportunity to send off one of the greats to ever put on the black and gold, McKenzie Milton, joining us here on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. KZ, what is up? Thank you so much for joining us.
What's going on, Jeff? Appreciate you guys having me, man.
I appreciate you taking time for us. I know it's a busy time for you right now. You got so much going on. I mean, you always have, right? Like but with the Hula Bowl coming up, with the stuff you're doing with Dreamfield, and you're also, I'm curious about, and we'll ask about this later. You're transitioning out from being a college player. I'm sure you're going to measure your options, but I want to start by asking you about the Hula Bowl, and you are doing actually a really cool thing where half the proceeds from the ticket sales are going to the family of the late Otis Anderson, who we all knew. And it's still as shocking to us as I'm sure it is to you that he's gone. It's pretty obvious, but give me your thought process and, when you decided to do that for the Hula Bowl and for his family.
Initially, I knew leading up to the Hula Bowl, I'd be in Orlando and, I just want to do something for Otis and his family just to continue to honor him. I think it's easy to, when it's fresh, when something like that happens to, kind of rally around him, rally around his family. But, as time goes on, I don't want his memory to just kind of go away. You know what I mean? To me, he needs to continue to live on through each and every one of us. And, he had a huge impact on me, not just in football, but just as a person, man, just always being positive, always happy. And he was just a great young man and, just gone too soon. But, I know one day we'll see him again. And, initially, I wanted to have a Hula Bowl after party, which we still are doing at Elixir Orlando. And, I'll be signing autographs and probably charging $10 an autograph, but all those proceeds will be going to his mom, Dee Anderson. And, I just feel like we need to be there for her. I know money can't change the situation, but to me, it's just more so about continuing to live on through us. And, I was able to partner with the Hula Bowl and, you know, being able to make this happen for them as well. And, you know, to me, it's only right. You know, made me look good a lot of times on the field. So, you know, I think it's only right to honor him with, you know, me being able to step on that field one more time. And, you know, you know, O's family to me, and yeah, just tough situation, but to me, it just needs to continue to live on through all of us.
What do you remember? Tell me something about your relationship with Otis, like about him as a person that we as the media and the fans didn't see that you'll always remember about him.
He's just funny, man. He's a quirky dude. Kind of like a little brother to me. He came in the spring after my freshman year, and we knew he'd have an immediate impact, and he sure did on the field, but just in the locker room, just as a person, as a friend, family, like, words really can't express like how he was and how he is. You just had to be around him because he was so infectious and how he is. And yeah, just, you know, I smile just thinking about him. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of impact he had on me.
Do you have a favorite play with him? I mean, we had Adam Amin on a couple of years ago on the show, and he brought up that screenplay that you hit him up against South Florida in 2017 to go up. Look, at the time we thought it was going to put the game away. That's a memorable play. He's had so many memorable plays. Do you have one with him? Is that one that stands out?
Yeah, you know, that the screen is up there for sure. You know, we talk about that all the time. Told him before the play, I was like, oh, it's going to be quick. I knew they're bringing a boundary pressure. I'm like, oh, it's going to be quick. And, you know, he always managed to make the plays. And, you know, I think we just kind of had a level of comfortability back there with each other. And even when he was in the slot, making big plays, sparking us at times, and whether it's punt returns against Pitt, screens against Auburn, he made a lot of big plays, man.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't win all those games without Otis Anderson. That's for sure.
One play that has really been brought up with Otis after Otis's passing was the time where he flashed the deuce as he ran into the end zone for the touchdown. And of course, that was a tribute that Ryan O'Keefe gave to the late running back when he ran for a touchdown during the Gasparilla Bowl. Were you watching that game, and what were you thinking when you noticed that?
You know, I was watching the game. I was in the stands, and, you know, I saw O'Keefe throw it up, and man, just divine intervention, and just the fact that they're both the same distance, you know, and those are just two legendary moments in UCF history. And yeah, like, Ryan O'Keefe is a great player now, and he's gonna do great things. But to me, that's just divine intervention, and just shows that O's still with us.
You know what I remember about this whole thing is I think it's really emphasized how tight of a, and I know people think of this as like a cliche, but I think it's really emphasized how tight the UCF football community is. It really is like a family. And I really think that and due respect to all the players and coaches before, but I think that you were so instrumental in creating that. You know, obviously Ohana in the Hawaiian native language means family. And yeah, you as a quarterback, take me back to when you first came here, and, you know, as a freshman under Scott Frost, and learning how to be a college quarterback and really learning the game at the collegiate level. How did you approach, like, building the connections with your teammates that you became so famous for?
Yeah, I just think just be who you are. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was born and raised in Hawaii, and you know, everything there was just kind of tight knit. Everybody just kind of took care of each other, and, you know, that's just kind of how I was raised. You know, I'm considered what's a quote unquote haole back home, which is considered an outsider. But, you know, I never felt like that back home. And, you know, people back home, Polynesians, Samoans, Hawaiians, they treated me as if I was one of their own. And, you know, it just, for me, you know, I carry that culture with me wherever I go. And, yeah, you know, if a guy needs a helping hand here or anything there, and I think just the passion that we play with back home too, just, I think you kind of see that in the way I would play too. And I think guys can rally around something like that when, you know, you see a guy selling out and, you know, practicing what he preaches. And to me in the locker room, you can spot a phony a mile away. And, you know, that's not something I would ever want to be. You know, there's times in my freshman year where, you know, I had to go through some growing pains on and off the field. And, you know, I feel like I had to go through that to just grow up, you know what I mean? And I feel like those lessons learned kind of helped us, you know, get over that hump from my freshman year to accomplish what we did the following years.
Your presence actually ended up from, you know, we had Dylan Gabriel, of course, come in from Hawaii as well, and now we have Loka Paole on the offensive line. Hercule Latu transferred here from BYU. Can you just talk about how you about bringing a bit of Hawaii with you to UCF and how you feel like it's impacted this community?
Yeah, you know, I know I was the first athlete from Hawaii to enroll at the school, and you know, that's a huge honor for me to, you know, just kind of break those barriers down for kids back home to get out here to Florida school. And to me, you know, I want to put Hawaii on the map. And, you know, guys I looked up to growing up, Manti Te'o, Marcus Mariota, they did that for me. And, you know, if it wasn't for Mariota doing what he did, you know, I probably wouldn't have got recruited by Scott Frost. So I think guys setting the foundation and then, you know, guys continuing to do that kind of stuff just provides more opportunities for guys like myself back home. And, you know, Dylan coming here, that was special for me because, you know, he was a freshman when I was a senior in high school. And it's kind of funny. I got hurt my senior year and he came in and did really well his freshman year of high school. So it's kind of a similar thing. And, you know, he's going to do his thing at Oklahoma. You know, I don't fault him one bit for going elsewhere, but you know what he did here, you know, he was a special player for us at UCF as well. Lokahi's doing really well. And yeah, you know, just this Hawaii pipeline, you know, I hope it continues to be a thing. And that's, you know, why I want to stay, you know, kind of in this involved in UCF as long as I can, because I want to keep getting guys out here from Hawaii because, you know, this is a special brand of football that we play back home.
I was thinking back to the, you know, when I think of you, I think of that off season between your freshman and your sophomore year. You made a leap that I've never seen a player at any level make. Not to say that you had a bad freshman year, but like you said, it was rough at times. Like, you know, you had 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and then all of a sudden you go from, you know, 57%, and it bears out in the stats, right? You go from 57% to 67% completion percentage, 10 touchdowns to 37, and the team goes from 6-7 to 13-0 and a national championship claim. And I just remember watching every game that year and thinking at times, oh my God, like, here's a good example of it. You've probably seen this YouTube video. Somebody put up a YouTube video of every 40-plus yard touchdown from UCF in 2017. And I remember watching every single one of these things, either live in person or on TV, and thinking, oh my God, this is too easy. How is this happening? And it was watching you play. You just looked like you were in a zone. How did you go from that freshman who was dealing with with that difficult transition to a master of the game in that following season? What happened? How did it happen?
You know, I think just buying in the spring, you know, helped me. And I don't know, you know, we had a special team. I had special guys around me. I had a lot of NFL guys around me too, which helps, you know what I mean? And Coach Ross, Coach Verduzco, Coach Walters, they put me in great situations. And, you know, there wasn't a time where, you know, I was out there and I felt uncomfortable. You know, I stayed healthy the whole season, which helped a lot too. And, you know, we were just clicking on all cylinders. Guys knew their jobs. We knew exactly what to do, and we just executed. Even my freshman year, you know, it was tough, but, you know, I knew I wasn't playing my best brand of football. I was a little banged up at times. Just kind of had to go through those growing pains as a freshman, you know, and but to me, I'm just one cog in the wheel of success. And without, like I said, Coach Frost, Coach Verduzco, those guys put me in great situations, and having guys like Traquan, Gabe Davis, Dredrick Snelson, Jordan Akins, and all those little fast running backs, you know, I'm not putting up those kind of numbers. And that's just the reality. And, I think you can kind of, see that in other years I played. You're only a product of the things around you. You know what I mean? You gotta have the right people supporting you, and you gotta have it's all got to mesh. It's all, because if it's like that, when it's like that, it can be great. And that's what it was in 2017 and 2018.
Chemistry. Team
Yes,
chemistry.
sir.
It's
Yes,
so
sir.
underrated, man, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, you've got a unique connection here because you played for Coach Frost, you played for Coach Heupel, and I believe you've met Coach Malzahn recently, and of course, obviously faced him in that Peach Bowl. So you have a connection to the last three UCF head coaches. Can you describe your experiences, meeting Gus and what you think he'll bring to the program? As you obviously have mentioned, you want to be around the program and help.
Yeah. So, I mean, under Coach Frost, that's like a big brother / father figure to me. And, I owe him everything. He gave me the opportunity to create a name for myself out here. And yeah, I still talk to him to this day, and, that's family. And Coach Heupel, he came in, and, I think the biggest thing for him, he helped me just be accountable to, continuing to be a leader and continuing to progress my game. And that's another guy that's like a big brother / father figure. And, I have great relationships with those guys, and I love those guys. And, I'm grateful to have learned from both them. And, when and if I do get into coaching, I'm going to run what I ran with them, because in my mind, those are two of the best offensive minds in college football. Coach Malzahn, I've had the pleasure of talking to him and meeting him a few times now since the season has ended. And just a wonderful dude. Obviously, he's a great coach. I mean, the proof is in the pudding of what he's done in the past. But what I'm seeing from him is just he's really in it. You can tell he loves being here, and you can see the kind of guys he's going to bring in, the kind of recruits he's going to bring in. I'm excited to see what they do. And in whatever way I can help out with the university, I'm going to do that. I don't think it's going to be from a coaching aspect at this point, because in all honesty, I really don't want to. I want to play as long as I can, but as much as I can help these guys, if it's outside of football, NIL stuff, that's what I want to do. For me right now, I'm still in the mindset as a player, not so much a coach. But golly, I think this, and even Terry Mahajer, our AD, he's a great addition to UCF, and he has big visions as well. And we got the right people running the ship, and I'm super excited to see where this thing goes.
Well, you mentioned you're a player, and it was surreal to see you play on the field this year. And that Labor Day night, I think the moment of the year in college football, and you got on that field, an emotional night, led him to that touchdown against Notre Dame. It's going to be awesome to see you in the bounce house. What was it like to be back on the field this season? How did you feel when you were on the field? Did you ever at any moment during the year felt like 2017 or 2018 physically?
Yeah, physically I felt good. I truthfully don't like wearing the brace while I play. I'm going to try to get to a point where I can play out of it. So I'm continuing to just work hard in rehab and strengthening everything in there. Once I get the green light from the doctor, I'm going to do that. And I've already kind of started practicing without it, all my drills and stuff like that. I'm not in it. The only time I was in it during the season was during games. So, eventually I just want to just feel like a true athlete again in terms of not wearing any bulky gear and stuff like that. In all honesty, no, I can't say I felt like it was 2017 or 2018, just because for a variety of reasons. And I really don't want to get into all that. I have my own kind of feelings about that stuff. And, it just kind of is what it is. It was a blessing to get back out there. I loved the relationships I built at FSU and the guys I was around. To me, it was a great learning experience. And, just to me, I don't want excuses, for myself. I'm hungry, and that's why I'm training for the NFL, and I'm going to continue to bust my butt for that.
So you're aiming right now after the Hula Bowl is over. Your aim is, I want to get to the NFL, get an invite to the combine, work out, do what I have to, and get picked. That's what's next for McKenzie Milton. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, whatever happens, happens. You know, I know there's a lot of things that aren't going to be in control. You know, whether it's, you know, passing physicals and stuff like that with team doctors, you know, that's just kind of, it's cutthroat in the NFL. I know how it is.
Yeah.
But, you know, I know what I can still do with a football in my hand when I'm put in the right situations. And, you know, I just, yeah, and that's why I'm going to continue to do it. I feel like I owe it to myself. You know, I didn't want to come back just to come back. You know, getting out there against Notre Dame was great. I still feel like we should have won that game if, you know, we might have called it a little different, but it just kind of is what it is. But nah, man, I'm excited. You know, I'm training hard right now out in Orlando, working with Steve Calhoun as my quarterback coach. And, you know, we're getting things dialed away, cleaning up mechanics. You know, I don't think I was super clean mechanically this year in terms of arm slot and footwork and stuff like that. So, you know, I think it was great for me to get back out there to get my feet wet. In all honesty, it reminded me a lot of my freshman year, just with, you know, kind of how the team played, kind of how, you know, I played. And, you know, I missed some throws here, make some throws there, flashes here, flashes there, but it wasn't clicking how it should have been. And, you know, I think that stuff takes time. And, you know, I'm grateful to get back out there, but, you know, I'm not where I want to be yet. And, you know, I'm just going to continue to progress.
It was the time off, wasn't it? Because, like, I mean, we still saw, like, even in that Notre Dame game, like, even going back and watching, especially those last couple possessions in regulation, I felt like it was kind of a benefit for you to come off the bench rather than start, because it was all of a sudden, it's like, okay, you're in now, right? It was like, it's like what Darryl Green called your right now moment. And you didn't, and I felt like you didn't have time to sort of think about it too much. And all of a sudden, bang, you're making throws. And I remember I was watching the game with my family, and I was like jumping out of my seat and like trying to fight back tears at the same time, because I'm like, oh my God, he's back. You know, it's so how is it, you know, when you look back on that and like where you are right now, do you still feel like there's a long road ahead and you're still, and there's something, you know, you're paving new ground for yourself? Or is like, okay, I've been down this road before, I know I can get back to where I was?
Nah, I don't feel like I'm far off at all. In all honesty, I feel like there's a lot of external, you know, factors going on this year up at FSU that, you know, like I said, I'm not really going to get into all that, but you know, I was grateful for my time there, but I don't think I'm far off at all in terms of being able to play at a high level. You know, I see all these quarterbacks coming out this year, and I don't see them doing anything that I can't do. And that's just all honesty. Yeah, and that's just all honesty. You know, I see Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder. I played against both those guys, and you know, we all know how you know those games went. And you know, I watch a lot of college football, and you know, I watch all these guys that are projected to go first round, and you know, it gets me excited while I'm training. It makes me very excited.
Well, let me ask you, this is my last question. You're going to be playing in the bounce house one more time, which is an amazing story considering your story. What's going to go through your mind when you get into that stadium and get on that field?
I'm sure it'll be a little emotional, but I'm just going to let it rip and have fun, you know, just like I always do. You know, I'll be playing with Cole Snyder and hopefully Big Cat's on our team too. And I'll be playing with a couple of my FSU guys too. So I'm just going to have fun out there, do my best to put on a show for the scouts, put on a show for the fans. And we got a thick playbook, so I need to study that. But
say, man, it's an all-star game. Like they can't throw too much at you, can they?
You'd be surprised. But no, I'm excited. I'm excited to get around, you know, guys from other schools and just, you know, just have fun out there. Just have fun.
You know, you talked about how even though you're going to be continuing your playing career or going for that, you talked about how you still obviously be willing to help everybody when it comes to name, image, and likeness stuff. And of course, you've been involved with Dreamfield. How has that been with NIL now really becoming as big as it has become? And I noticed that you're going to be hosting that mission comeback thing at Burger U with Isaiah Bowser, Alex Ward, Sam Jackson. Like what's it been like working with them and taking this, I guess, mentor or at least a helping hand role in this new developing space in college athletics?
Yeah, it's been really cool. Honestly, like, the injury was tough, but, being a college athlete in this day and age, this last year with NIL and stuff, and just being on the forefront of that and just having a intricate part in that has been a blessing in itself. So I feel like everything happens for a reason. And then, I come back here after finishing up at FSU and just being able to help these guys. And to me, like you said earlier, Jeff, it's a real community out here with the UCF. And, I think that's something we kind of a direction we want to go with this NIL deal. Get everybody that loves UCF, like we love UCF, to be engaged with these athletes in one way or another. And it doesn't got to be just catered to football. It could be women's volleyball, women's soccer, basketball, and stuff like that. So we got big plans ahead. And, I think in the near future, we're going to have some cool things rolling out here involved with Dreamfield and really a lot of the student athletes at UCF, and just creating buzz, because I feel like, we have 60,000 plus people going to our school, and, we're having a bunch of new, fresh alumni that are excited about what's going on. And, when you graduate, it's like, man, you still want to be a part of it. Right. And, that's how I am, because, I love UCF, and I feel like that's how a lot of the alumni base is too. So that's what I feel like it's all about. When it's 10 Hana, one Ohana is one family, and it's not just catered to football. It's catered to the whole night community and anybody that touches, really.
That makes me so happy too, and I know it makes Eric and Bryson too, because that we have spent, since I was a student and since Eric was a student, we also, have been tooting the horn of it's not just football and men's basketball. There's a lot of great sports here, just like we see in like every other university. You caught a glimpse of it at FSU, how seriously that they take not just football and men's basketball, but everything.
Yeah.
And that's something that we have to keep pushing here at UCF, right?
Nah, absolutely. And, I think the sky's the limit. Nah, not even the limit for UCF, because, we're a space school. So that's definitely not the limit. And I truly do believe that UCF has the potential and honestly will be the top school in Florida in the near future in all aspects. It's a special place, very special place.
Well, we were blessed to have you here when we did, and we're thankful for all the great moments that you've given us, and you still have yet to give us, not just in the Hula Bowl coming up a week from Saturday, but in the future. If it's in the NFL, if it's in the USFL, which is coming online too, which I know you probably have one eye on as well, just in case. There's a lot of opportunities that are out there, and I think that's a wonderful thing. And to see you also, dive into business as you have, And what was your major? I forget what your major was.
Sports and exercise science.
Okay. And then did you get your master's at FSU as well?
I got a master's certificate in coaching up there.
Okay.
And I'll be finishing up my master's this spring, actually, here at UCF.
Okay, good. Well, in advance, congratulations for that. But I know that,
Thank you.
You said earlier, coaching's not – everyone on Twitter, after you see it, everyone's like, oh, Coach KZ, he's going to come out. And you're like, hold up. Not yet. I'm not done yet, right?
Yeah, not yet. I don't know when. I think eventually, yes. But, right now, just, I gotta still exhaust playing, man.
I don't blame you. Man. It's I never got the chance to play. Eric never got the chance to play. Bryson never got it. But we always say, like, if we were in those shoes, we'd be like, you'll have to drag us off the field. Like, we're gonna exhaust every opportunity to. And whatever it is that you have coming in your future, we know you're going to be successful at it because you've shown it before for us, and we as fans are thankful for that. So before we let you go, McKenzie, just give us the sales pitch on what's going on this week, what events you have planned, and how fans can follow you and see what's going on.
Yeah, this Sunday, 6 o'clock at Burger U. You know, we're gonna be honoring all these super seniors that are coming out. It's just a little meet and greet. You know what I mean? Get some good food, burgers, wings, whatever you want from Burger U, and just come hang out with some of the guys and myself. And you know, we're excited. We're excited that these guys that help build this culture are staying around for one more year, and really hopefully going to lead us to another conference championship, because I feel like that's the potential that this team has after, you know, seeing what they did to Florida and seeing the new pieces that are coming in. I'm very excited. I'm very excited about the future.
All right. And then a week of practice, and then the Hula Bowl on Saturday the 15th. What time is kickoff for the game?
Noon, baby. Noon kick.
Noon, baby.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you there. McKenzie Milton, the great, it's easy to say this, the great McKenzie Milton, joining us on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. KZ, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for everything that you've given to us as fans, and best of luck. We'll see you on the field in the bounce house in a little bit more than a week, man.
Appreciate y'all, man.
Wow. Special thanks to the GOAT, McKenzie Milton. And by the way, of course, we recorded that interview on Saturday. We're recording this podcast
Friday.
on Thursday. We recorded Friday?
Yeah, I believe we recorded Friday.
All right. So McKenzie is practicing for the Hula Bowl on Saturday. We will see him there. Bryson is with us along with Eric.
The really cool dual helmet, by the way. Have you guys seen that on Twitter?
I did. Yeah, I did see that. It was pretty cool, although I'm kind of sad. Like, I wanted to do UCF one. But of course, the dual helmet. But and Kyle is sticking around with us here too. So Eric, I want to start with you. I think the news here is McKenzie's not going into coaching right away, right? I mean,
correct.
He's going to try his hand at the NFL. I did mention to him, obviously, the USFL being a possibility. I don't think that's something. He kind of smirked at that. I don't think that's something that he should throw out just yet as a possibility. But he's going to take his shot at the pros, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I think that's his dream. I think it was fascinating to hear him. I mean, he mentioned Kenny Pickett and Desmond Ridder, and I think he feels he's just as good as those guys.
That was my favorite part of the whole interview, by the way. He was kind of like, I saw Kenny Pickett. He's like, we can.
It's not, like, I mean, and he felt like he could play better without the brace. I thought that was interesting comments there. So
that made me nervous, but okay.
But that's him, man. I think I don't think he did all this hard work just to like, all right, let's call it a day. I think he generally wants to give it a shot. He's still young. I mean, he could get into coaching whenever. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that was the big story, because obviously a lot of fans were like, hey, Gus, can you join him on the staff? Can you join him in? Finally, we can put that to rest. That's not happening. And I think the bigger picture, and Bryson, you covered this Sunday night event that we actually mentioned in that interview at Burger U. And you're writing about this on the Banneret to some extent about McKenzie. I think McKenzie's impact with UCF is not necessarily going to be as a coach in the next few years. It's going to be more about helping UCF players, isn't it?
Oh, yes. I mean, as a co-founder of NIL or of Dreamfield, which is an NIL-based company, I think McKenzie Milton will be really big in that space and will help players out in that field. Of course, Dreamfield launched Michigan, did a soft launch for Mission Control, which, if you know what the Gator Collective is, it's sort of like the same thing, but the difference is that Dreamfield is going to is in complete control of it for the moment. I can tell you that Luis Portillo, one of the other co-founders of Dreamfield, another UCF alum, by the way, told me they do intend on spinning Mission Control off into its own entity eventually, once that's possible for them to do. But as for the moment, McKenzie Milton's just a really great face to do this with, because the UCF community loves and respects him. I'll tell you this little story. I was going to I interviewed McKenzie for a few minutes during the event, and because I was able to pull him aside for a minute. And as we were going out to one of those tables set out outside of Burger U, so that way we can get out of the music in there, so they could hear me. This little girl with the little Perfect Nights book, the book that kind of recapped the perfect 2017 season, she came up to him while we were walking out with that book and asking him to sign it, and he was coming out and he was like, hey, can I do this real quick? And I was like, yeah, no problem. So I mean, that doesn't tell you how much he values this community, then I don't know what is. And so even though he's not a coach, I think the impact he'll have here, regardless of what he does, is huge, because it's clear that he loves this place. And I think that's all you really need. I mean, coaching's great, but that can wait.
It also shows to me, I think, how much he transcends football.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I think that's one of the things. Like, you don't have that many people that come along in the history of a program that transcend the sport that they're in, and I think that he's definitely one of them. Kyle, I'm glad we got you in here on this as well, because as we progress through the offseason and the transfer portal continues to be a main topic of conversation, turns out that there's another guy who may be wearing number 10 in the black and gold and playing quarterback fairly soon. He's the big story from the transfer portal this week. John Rice Plumlee, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, was a quarterback at Ole Miss and then got supplanted by Matt Corral. Moved over to receiver. He dove into the portal, and he has announced he is coming to UCF. This dude is fast, 4.3 40. Also plays baseball. Was sort of an outfielder. Was an outfielder for Ole Miss, and very fast, can steal bases. But this guy seems like a very Gus Malzahn type quarterback, and UCF is beefing up that quarterback room a little bit with this guy. What do we think about John Rice Plumlee, and could we see him starting for UCF in 2022 if things go the way that maybe we might be projecting them to go?
Well, I mean, gentlemen, let's say this, okay? At the very least with Plumlee, like the worst case scenario, let's say he totally bombs and is out of the quarterback room and he's on the roster as just a standard wide receiver or a pair of legs. Guys, the opportunity for the football team to have a good punt returner is something. They haven't had one that has matched the prowess of Otis Anderson since his departure to the NFL. I got to tell you that if that's your worst case scenarios, you could have a good punt returner. That's a good prospect. Like, this is a utility guy who, like, the tippity top is he's, the quarterback that's starting and is raining down passes to a beefed up now receiver core. I'm sure we'll get to that in a minute. And the worst case scenario is, hey, maybe he could be a good punt returner and delivers on that. Like, that's what you see from guys who can recruit well, as we are alleging that Gus Malzahn can, right? So now, can he make a difference in the quarterback room? Listen, I don't think we've had this much disarray in the quarterback room since we were talking about Brandon Wimbush, DJ Mack, and a very young, not yet known Dylan Gabriel, and Quadri Jones, I think, might have been there at that point too.
He was.
So we haven't had that much disarray in the storyline since then, since a few years back. So with that all being said, yes, he has a possibility to start at the quarterback position. I mean, if there's an opportunity for him to deliver the ball with more consistency than Mikey Keene and have better legs than him, of course he's going to get the job.
Aaron,
do you want to know what will scare defenses with John Rice Plumlee? Stick him on the opposite side of the field from Ryan O'Keefe and just watch them quake in their boots to find out which speedster could possibly get the ball.
Yeah. You better have a quick secondary. But Mike, Eric, let me ask you: Is this the guy?
I don't know. We'll see. That's what this spring's going to be about. I think the question is, what is his accuracy from a passing standpoint? I think he's in the mid-50s. I think he's going to have a role on this team one way or the other. The question's going to be, is he going to be a starting quarterback? Is he going to be a guy that's going to line up at quarterback and run some shortage plays that we've seen Gus clearly likes to do? When he takes out Mikey Keene out of the equation and brings in other quarterbacks like Parker Navarro to end the year and to run plays. He's going to have a role on this team. He's got he's got some Cordell Stewart vibes to me, right? Like, you're going to put him on the field and he's somewhere and he's going to help your football team. Where that is the big question. I do think he has a legitimate shot to win the quarterback job. I think he's athletic, and I think Gus wants his quarterback to have ability to run. And I don't know if Mikey Keene has that. Now, if Mikey Keene improves and takes a never win the job, then so be it. I think this kid's going to have a role on this football team one way or the other. And I think they're a better football team because he is on this roster. I think that's the one thing I will say is they're a better football team with him on the roster. We just don't know in what role he will help him in yet.
Looking at his numbers from before at Ole Miss, he actually led Ole Miss in rushing in 2019 with 1,023 yards and 12 touchdowns, had 5 games of 100 yards or more. Only completed, like you said, Eric, 53% of his passes for 910 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 picks. Did throw for 5,000 yards in high school and ran for 1,400, or ran for over 2,000 for his career. But this could be. Yeah, I like the possibility of having him come in as another guy to really compete in that room. Bryson, what's his eligibility? Is he going to be a junior? How many years of eligibility does he have left?
So what I'm seeing is I remember seeing that he had 2 left in football because remember technically the players now have 5 years of eligibility because of the extra COVID year. So Plumlee's coming in as a senior. So that means he would have this season and another season of eligibility from what I am seeing because his thing says a junior. Yeah, he's coming in as a senior, and then he has the 5th year of eligibility for that. That's football. Baseball, I'm hearing he has 3 seasons of eligibility left there. So now we'll see if he plays. I mean, from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look like he's going to play baseball because he didn't transfer in time for the deadline to work, though they could get a waiver because waivers exist. So
his Instagram, he did put both a UCF football and a UCF baseball.
Yeah. He did. I'm not arguing that he could be he'll be a part of the team. Even if he doesn't play, I think he will, even if he doesn't play this season and it has to sit out because of the transfer, I think he'll still have a presence on the team at least because, is practicing with the team I've been hearing. So he'll have a presence. The question is he going to play or not? And that's something that we'll probably have an answer to within the coming weeks leading up to baseball season.
Okay. The most underrated part of that story that Bryson just mentioned, Gus and Greg Lovelady working together, which is evident here. This doesn't happen without both of them signing off. And it sounds like, of course he's going to sign. Not every baseball coach would sign off to this or offensive player. Now, obviously, Greg saw him up close last year because Plumlee played against him in that series. He's a talented player to play in the outfield. This will help the baseball team. But that's a part that I'm really looking forward to asking Gus at the next media availability, whenever that is, and certainly when we talk to Greg as we get closer to the season, on that bond, on that coaches working together in different sports to help each other. I think that's a fantastic story that nobody will cover except us because nobody else knows.
It's been a while, too, on that because he's the first UCF baseball football two-sport guy, or would be, since D. Brown. Remember the thing with D. Brown was he was a 2-sport player, and then George O'Leary came in and forced him to choose, and he chose baseball. And
Plumlee said, during the whole thing, he wanted to go somewhere where he could play both sports.
Yeah. So, couple other transfers that we need to talk about. One is Ryan Swoboda. Boy, is this dude big. He's from Claremont, went to UVA, and is now transferring to UCF. 6'10", 325. He dwarfs you, Kyle Nash.
He's taller than me, but I mean, listen, he weighs a little more than me too. Never mind.
Any possibility that he could play the 5 and as a 2-sport star, Eric Lopez, or no?
I'm wondering if he's going to hang out with Von Wagner and Harlan, who were at the basketball game, and just go to NXT after.
Yeah, Well, listen, I don't know if you see it. I get a little bit worried here, former offensive lineman Kyle Nash, because what's the number 1 rule of blocking? Low man wins.
Okay, well, listen, and I could see that and raise you a lot of traditional concerns surrounding short quarterbacks and things like that. And the quarterback room in general isn't necessarily a behemoth kind of tall, right? So, I mean, I can go in all that too. But at this point, listen, the dude wouldn't have found any success if he hadn't solved for that problem already. Second, he's playing.
Fair point.
He's been a starter at Virginia there for Bronco Mendenhall, and so, I mean, who's really dependent on offensive line play for his success at BYU and Virginia, and he's been I think all conference performer at UVA.
Interestingly enough, he's actually tied for the tallest offensive lineman at UCF now with Paul Rubelt. But go ahead.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I mean, from the tackle position, with height usually comes length. Now, in my case, with my T-Rex arms, I suffered there. I just had to good old fashioned find a way to get lower. But this guy, a little different. You know, when you can keep them at a distance, you're forgiven certain elements of gravity that may work against you in that situation. And also, at the end of the day, if you have a guy who's that big on the outside, that tells me good feet, that tells me second level blocking. And if you have a running back core like you do at UCF right now, with what's going on, Bowser, Harvey, other new guys that have come in, you're going to want a guy that has the ability to go down the field and take care of those blocks at the second level when applied for in that particular instance. That's just what I see. And it's interesting, him and Sam coming back, this might be the best pair of tackles that you've had potentially since Evans and Wyatt Miller.
Well, don't forget about Tylen Grable, who entered in the transfer portal earlier, an all Ohio Valley Conference first team from Jacksonville State. He is a tackle as well. If I'm wondering if we might see Sam Jackson at guard and put Grable and Swoboda.
I've seen that floated. I'm not feeling that, but by the same token, Sam's smart enough to work with it. Physically, it doesn't make sense to me.
Maybe Grable's the one that moves around. Maybe interchangeable.
Exactly.
Maybe.
So
now
here's.
All I know is that Swoboda spent a lot. All I know is that Swoboda was basically the at right tackle the entire season at Virginia, and my guess is that that's where Gus and Coach Ann want to put him.
Yeah, that's a fit to me too. I 100% agree, Bryson.
All right. One last transfer that we want to talk about too, and this was a big one that dropped yesterday that Drew was really excited about. Kobe Hudson. 6'1", 199 wide receiver. Eric's excited about this one too. He's going to be a junior. I think he's got 2 years of eligibility left, Eric?
I think so. Bryson is our expert eligibility guy, so we'll go to him.
Let me drop the stats on this kid. 44 catches, 580 yards, 4 touchdowns last year for Auburn. Was highly recruited. In the top 20 nationally. He was the number 1 receiver in the state of Georgia. He's originally from Troup County High School in Pine Mountain. And he's rejoined. He's getting the band back together with Gus, yet another former Auburn player coming back to Gus Malzahn. And this guy, ostensibly Eric Lopez, is to replace, frame-wise, looks to me like he's going to fit that Brandon Johnson mold. And with Titus Mokiao-Atamalala moving on to UCLA, which was announced this week, he may get even more opportunities. I don't know if he was that much of a special teamer, but this is a super talented guy on the outside.
We talked last week about relationships in recruiting in the transfer portal. Here's another example. This is a Gus guy, played at Auburn. This will fit. He fits in Gus's system, plays in there. If you rank the transfer ads for Gus, this is at the top of the list. I think he's a massive upgrade over Titus, just because you got a guy who's proven. He's experienced. We don't know what Titus is. And this is how you have to...
Is he an upgrade over Brandon, though?
We'll see. It remains to be seen. But he's an upgrade on what they had on the roster currently. Right. And that's how you address... And how you have to evaluate the transfer portal is, okay, did you upgrade? All right, you lose Titus, but you pick up Kobe. Well, guess what? That's a plus for UCF. That's an upgrade. So with all due respect to Titus, we don't know what Titus is. He might turn out to be great, may not. Who knows? But we know what Kobe is, and he fits this system better. Whoever the UCF starting quarterback will be will benefit from this. And you have Ryan O'Keefe, and you got Kobe, Jay Flash possibly get back. Now this receiving core looks a lot better, which was something that much better than, with good upside here. And I think it was a big move.
Don't forget, we have Xavier Townsend and Tyler Griffin coming in as well, true freshmen.
Yeah. They may get redshirted, though, to be fair. But, I mean, even if you just run with those 3 guys, right? O'Keefe, Kobe, and assuming Jay Flash is coming back, which his social media didn't exactly state that he was, but ostensibly that seems to be the vibe coming from there.
Since he doesn't want to sit out for a year, I would assume.
Yeah, this receiving core just got really good. Not that it wasn't good before, but it got really good now.
By the way, you guys asked about Kobe's eligibility. So he's coming off of his sophomore season with Auburn. He was a true freshman in 2020. As far as the extra
3 years.
So I think he could have 2 for sure. 3, it depends on the extra COVID year. I have to double check the timing on that. I think the rule is if you're on the 2020, if you were on a team in 2020, then you got the extra year of eligibility. So 2 years for sure. But it could be 3 for him.
With all the designations between like grad student, super senior, I feel like they should change the rosters to say like years left.
Right. I know, but then of course that's assuming things. But
right.
Oh, by the way, we were talking about the offensive line earlier. I was just looking up Kobe Hudson real quick for my research, and I just saw breaking news that USA Today named center Matt Lee to its All Bowl team.
As they should. That is a talented human being.
Really? We have bowl teams now? Right.
I don't know. That's just what I don't know. I mean, they just
really, guys, we're that rough for content, huh? All right, cool.
Well, we were talking about the O-line earlier, so I figured that would work. And I think the idea is that the addition of Swoboda and Grable really helps upgrade this offensive line, because the offensive line lost Cole Schneider, who's playing in the Hula Bowl on the same team as McKenzie Milton. They're both on Team Ina, by the way, led by former Falcons head coach Mike Smith. So we're going to see that. They lost Marcus Tatum. They lost Jermaine, Brett Bell. They lost Jermaine McMullen. The point is that this offensive lineman had some losses, but Gus and Herb and offensive line coach Herb Hand really, I think, utilized the transfer portal well from an offensive lineman standpoint, because Grable and Swoboda are both some really good gets for that unit.
And let's be real, boys. This is Gus's nose, and having coached in the SEC. Kyle, I think you agree. You got to be good in the line. You got to be good at the line. Mm-hmm. And you're doing that. And, we haven't even talked about the forward, Samuel Jackson coming back, Isaiah Bowser coming back, Anthony Montalvo and the defensive line coming back, Alex Ward, the long snapper. They were part of that Burger U event that McKenzie hosted on Sunday night that Bryson covered. You can read more about that on blackandgoldbanneret.com. But I think Gus is building this roster up, not only for next year, but for the eventual move to the Big 12, because, Kyle, they have to be good at the trenches if you want to be a factor in the Big 12, because it's the big boys league once you get into the Big 12.
Well, fair. And they're a group that tends to work more with speed and trickeration and stuff. Not to say that they don't have beefy boys, doing things in that conference, but listen, the best way to crush speed is to have it dominated. If you've seen any of, for example, not to break anyone's heart here, but any of the losses involving Cincinnati, at the end of the day, Cincinnati being tougher up front was what didn't and outdid any sort of speed or strategy that UCF brought up here. And I like that you brought up Sam Jack. The biggest deal for this O-line is bringing him back.
One other thing is that Gus did mention that all 4 of the players coming back, Bowser, Montalvo, Jackson, and Ward, he described both of them as leaders for this team. Sam Jackson, especially, he was a captain. And I think that a big thing with them coming back is that they're going to be essentially mentoring this kind of next generation of player that's going to be shepherding this UCF program into the Big 12. So seeing people like Sam Jackson coming back to do that is absolutely huge.
All right, we're hoping to see that pay dividends.
Kyle, you and I next year, we're going to do a bowl team for the Banneret, the Black and Gold Banneret all bowl team. All right.
Do this.
The all AAC bowl team. I think that would get quite a bit of quite a bit of play, right?
Guaranteed to beat any team in the ACC. Oh, I'm sorry.
So let's move on. Let's move forward.
All right. Let's get out of here for a second. When we come back, women's basketball off to a good start in conference. Got that big win over Houston. They have an even bigger game coming up this weekend against South Florida. We will break that down and plenty more when we return. This is the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Back after this. Welcome back to the show. Jeff and Eric, along with Bryson and Kyle, here with you on the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Women's basketball, as we switch gears now, they have a huge game coming up on Sunday, 3 p.m. against the South Florida Bulls, and they themselves are coming off of a big win against this resurgent Houston Cougars team, head coached by Ronald Hughey, former UCF assistant under Joy Williams. Eric Lopez and Bryson Turner, I know you guys have been paying very close attention to what this team has been doing. Right now, they are 11-2, 3-0 in the conference. And what did we learn from this UCF? Now, it looked like UCF was really going to push this thing out of reach. And Kyle, you were there in particular. Actually, Kyle, I want to start with you on this. They had a big lead over Houston. It looked like the defense was just doing what it does. And then Houston all of a sudden just started making threes.
Yeah.
And normally that's not that much of a concern, right? Like, as UCF scored, or Houston scored 31 points in the fourth quarter after being held to 5 in the second.
Right.
And what concerns me about this, right? It's not so much that the game got close against Houston. Houston's a good team, all right? But they're going to be facing a team in South Florida that the book on them is they shoot threes.
Mm-hmm.
So how concerned are we? This is the leading question, right? How concerned are we heading into this game against the Bulls, who are ranked in the top 25 and never met a three they didn't like?
Right. No. And listen, if you look at their previous meeting, which ousted them from the tournament finals for the conference, right? It's the same thing. It's the reason why, arrows were invented in warfare. So you could take down your opponent from afar with minimal damage, right? This is, if it's somebody shooting threes and getting hot, that is this team's weakness. That being said, that combination isn't something you're going to get every time. So from that standpoint, it always and will be a worry when you are facing a USF women's team, no question. However, the reason why the Houston game in and of itself doesn't really worry me and how that went is this very simple reason. Kelly Onage was a former UCF prospect. She came in early as a freshman with Brittany and Diamond, right? I'm not having that off. Yeah, okay. But the punchline to all of the above being, she went off in the fourth quarter like somebody who's playing against somebody who they used to play for. Okay, I don't care if it's the NFL, the NBA, or my cheesy little flag league where I had it happen to me. It still happened that if you get traded or moved or used to play against another team, you come out hot to show them what for. It's a thing in the back of every athlete human's mind, and whoever denies it is lying their entire rear end off, okay? And she went 3 for 5 from 3 in just that quarter. She finished with 20 points.
And she hit a 3-foul shot.
A continuation, yes.
Continuation off that, yeah.
Right,
so
absolutely.
It's like she had 4 threes in that fourth quarter.
Right,
exactly. Houston went for was only like two of 6 from the line before the fourth quarter. In the fourth quarter, not 9 for 9. So not only did they step up their 3-point shooting, they stepped up their free throw shooting as well. Luckily, UCF was able to respond in kind, going 9 for 11 from the free throw line. But yeah,
3-point shooting. They were 4 for 15 in the first 3 quarters.
Right.
In the fourth quarter, Kyle, they went 6 for 11.
Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, when you finish any game with 10 threes and you're shooting in the 40s for percentage, you're going to come up with a lot of points. 31 by this team is ridiculous. I get it, but
Eric, UCF has shown remarkable consistency on their end. They were 50% for the game, although only 1 of 9 from 3-point range. But a couple things that we do have to talk about regarding South Florida. These two teams are now back-to-back in the net rankings. South Florida is at 36. UCF is at 37. In addition to that, UCF, for UCF, the defense has continued to play well, but Alicia Lewis, who's our favorite player right now, tied a school record with 10 steals in the game against Houston. And, it sounds cliche, I know, but we're going to need a lot more of that in this game against South Florida if UCF wants to steal a win here. It's going to be...
You heard the pun there, Kyle? Steal a win. See, get it?
Oh, no, well, let me rephrase that, though, because I kind of meant that in the context of if they were playing on the road. This game is being played at home.
That's right. That's right. Kyle's going to be in the building. It's a big game with Mr. Nash is in the building, who's going to enjoy this matchup. By the way, the 10 steals, the last time a UCF player did it was 1988. Read Kyle's recap on blackandgoldbanneret.com to find out who.
That was a while ago.
It's a while ago. But look, South Florida, obviously, look, these two teams are the most experienced teams in the league among the country. These two teams know each other. They've played for years. UCF brought almost everybody back. USF basically brought everybody back. Sydney Harvey, who was the difference maker in the conference championship game, she got loose in that championship game from the three-point line and scoring. That's where UCF, and Abe, mentioned in the post game, they've got to guard the three-point line. South Florida is shooting the ball really well this year, 34% from the three. They're averaging about 7 threes a game, 19 attempts. That's the game. But the underrated part of this game, this girl has been a UCF killer, Bethy Munanga. Kyle, because you brought up to Abe, is this the best UCF have the best front court?
In the conference, right? In the
conference. Some would argue that Bethy Munanga is the best front court player in the conference. 10 points, 11 rebounds a game, nearly 12 boards a game. She has been a problem for UCF. And we've talked about I'll use the football analogy, the battle in the trenches. The battle in the trenches, Kyle, you're going to enjoy here in the front court is Munanga against Masudi Kaba and Brittany Thomas and Brittany Smith, I should say, and Destiny Thomas.
Yeah.
That's going to be the battle because South Florida is a very underrated rebounding team. They're going to have their shots, but you got to box them out. Don't give USF second shot opportunities. Munanga is the best in the conference in offensive rebounds. She has 57 offensive rebounds in this season, averaging 5 offensive rebounds. That's the key to the game. USF's going to get their threes. They're going to make some. They're going to miss some. But if you give them second or third opportunities, and Munanga is a big part of that, that's going to be the key in this game to me, whether UCF wins or not.
I mean, listen, I'm already looking forward to her versus Destiny Thomas. I mean, she darn near had a double-double, went going 9-9 in itself. And Coach Abe is cheering for her to get that double-double. And I really, what I was intrigued by, and I feel like they're going to do this on Sunday, I could be wrong, but Masni Kaba and Destiny Thomas in the starting lineup, and then Brittany Smith hitting double digits. I think she finished with 16 or something awesome coming off the bench. I think that's a good formula.
16 points in 28 minutes off the bench, 8 of 9 from the field.
I mean, come on, guys. Now, granted, I'm not expecting 8 of 9 every game, but if you're listen, okay, let's say she was only 7 of 9, or now it's a Star Trek reference, or 6 of 9. 5 of 9. That's still double digits off the bench.
Well, and you bring up a great point here, Kyle, because Brittany Smith's more of a finesse big, skilled, maybe the most skilled of the bigs they have.
That's how I'll say it, because she's still got 4 boards, brother.
Correct. But Destiny, who I know you like a lot, is more of a physical presence, and she's getting more minutes this year than she did last year. And I wonder if that was part of the coaching staff philosophy in playing South Florida, is to be more physical with them, in particular physical with Munanga. If you can get her in foul trouble, that's going to kill South Florida's inside game and their rebounding. And I think Thomas could play a role that we'll find out with the lineups and everything on Sunday, but that's something to watch. But this is a heavyweight title fight. This is a big game for UCF. You want to hold serve. These are clearly, by far, the 2 best teams in the American. This is a rivalry. They have collided. UCF has circled this game. That's why all these players, you spoke to them, Kyle, in media day. This is why they came, is to win a conference championship, that elusive title, and they know who's standing in their way, and that's the heavyweight champion of the world, and they're going to be seeing them face-to-face on Sunday.
One concern I have, Diamond Battles has been in a pretty bad shooting slump of late. Over her last 4 games, since the Seton Hall game where she went 8 of 12 and scored 22 points, in the 4 games since then, she's 9 for 46 from the field, and that includes an 0 for 7 spot against Houston. What she's got to hit shots. I think she tried to get herself involved early, and it was just, you could tell it was just like not her night. I don't know what's going on there, but boy, it would be, if she can find a way to get off the schneid in a big way, that could be, that UCF needs that desperately, don't they, Kyle?
Well, they've shown, and I asked Abe about this. What's her favorite thing that's different between this team and last year's team, and what have they improved on? And she said being able to score from multiple places. In last year, if you had told me that, I'd be like, yeah, you got a problem there. This year, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. I like watching Diamond Battle score too. She's got a finesse and a form to her that's awesome to watch. But at the end of the day, I mean, Lisha has had games where she has had double digits. You know, Tay Sanders being Tay Sanders is a thing that's happened a lot at this part of the season. You're getting how much again off the bench potentially from Brittany Smith? They have more options than last year, so this is a little less perturbing. Now, that all being said, what else I've noticed about Diamond is when the spotlight's bigger, she gets a bit angrier and does some amazing things.
I love angry Diamond battles.
Right? So this game could trigger that. So you could get exactly what you require there, Jeff.
To your point, though, Jeff, they need some outside shooting, whether it's Diamond or Lish.
Right.
One of them or both have to get some perimeter shots because USF's going to dare them to beat them from the perimeter. And
they were 1 of 9 from outside against
right,
Houston.
and you're not going to beat USF hitting only 1 3. You got to hit some more threes, keep them honest. But to Kyle's point, Tay Sanders scored a career-high 23. The last handful of games, she's really been their best scorer. Mm-hmm. Kyle, you haven't been long with. I've called her the Kawhi Leonard. She reminds me so much of Kawhi Leonard's style because she was a defensive player coming in, and I know Abe told you this at the postgame. She came in as a defensive player only, and you've seen what she could do defensively and all the assignments that she gets defensively. But she's evolved to an offensive game. You know, has a mid-range game. Is more aggressive this year, going to the basket, scoring, and taking shots. She's got a lot of Kawhi in her, so I think as long as she continues the upward tick in the scoring, which she has really for the last handful of games, I think the scoring, balance scoring that you brought up, Kyle, is they'll be fine, but they have to get some perimeter shooting from Diamond and or Lish for them to win this game, to your point, Jeff.
And yeah, to add to you, Tay could provide that too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that what UCF needs right now, and I'm looking at the AAC rankings right now, and I can understand why UCF has this game circled because all of USF's 4 losses this season have come away from Tampa, whether at away or neutral site. They're 5-0 at home right now. So UCF's going to have to go to Tampa later in the season. So circling this game is huge because you got to defend that home turf because who knows if you can guarantee that when you go. You
got to hold serve. You got to hold serve at home.
Just like the men did with Memphis, right?
Correct. You got to hold serve because you're right. You're right, Bryson. You don't want to go to Tampa. One game back in theory with, and try to make up a win there on the road. So that's a great point.
So 3 p.m. ESPNU on Sunday, UCF against South Florida. Fans, if you can get to that game, be there because this.
Say hello to Kyle.
This is one of those games where you need to where people need to sit up and take notice because that's going to be. It'll be intense. As big. This is one of the biggest games. Three biggest games. I sneezed. Of the year. I really do believe that.
Well, you look at the rivalry of the two schools. I think right now women's basketball, softball are your top 2 sports. Women's soccer probably third. Men's soccer definitely got intense with some of the chippiness they played last year, but this is as intense as it gets.
Men's soccer really got intense against Tulsa.
And it's going to be intense this Sunday when Women's Hoops. I'm telling you, it's going to be the most intense women's basketball game of the year, in my opinion.
A couple things that we want to go through. 2 UCF men's soccer players got drafted in the MLS Super Draft. It's not just the draft; it's the Super Draft.
Take that, NFL, NBA.
Draft.
Nuker, let's see. Nick Taylor, forward and midfielder, got picked in the 3rd round. He's staying home. He got picked by Orlando City. And then Giannis Learman, pick number 85 overall. 4th rounder defender goes to Chicago Fire. So, Bryson, you took a look at these 2 guys. It's bummer to see them go, but hey, This is great. We got 2 more UCF players in the MLS pyramid now.
Oh yes, I'm excited to see what if Orlando City face NYCFC again, to see Nick Taylor possibly shoot on Sean Johnson. That should be a very interesting combination to see. I'm really glad that Nick Taylor's staying in Orlando, though. I did a Know Your Night article on him back when UCF faced SMU, which was his former school, and he talked about how when he came to Orlando, he found it as a very happy medium between his hometown of Dallas and New Mexico, where he went for the first couple of years of his collegiate career in Albuquerque. So to see that he's back here, going to stay here in Orlando again, is really cool. So if you haven't checked it out yet, go check out that Nick Taylor article. It's the pinned tweet on my Twitter account at It's Bryson Turner, to see Nick Taylor's journey to the 407. And now it looks like he's going to be making his home here for the long term, hopefully. So I'm very excited to see that. And the Chicago Fire, they got themselves a really great defender in Giannis Learman. I'm very excited to see what he'll be able to do there.
That's now 8 active UCF men's soccer alumni in professional soccer here in the United States, topped off by, of course, Sean Johnson, the reigning most valuable player of the MLS Cup, and Cal Jennings, who finished the year on LAFC's roster. So coast-to-coast nights in MLS. As we wrap up here as well, tennis is getting started this week. Is that right, Bryson? We've got the dual match season for women's tennis starting. Oh no, that's next week. Next Saturday they start.
Monday, January 17th. Yes.
And of course the men have that Miami Invite, they just finished the Miami Invite. They start their season against Georgia on Monday, and this is a big test to start off the season. Is that right, Bryson?
Oh yes, the team is the whole team is ranked number 8 in the country. So UCF is ranked number 11. So we're in the same neighborhood ranking wise. So there's that. But individually, we're looking at, they have 5 ranked singles in the top 125, and
Georgia has this 5 ranked.
Georgia, yes, and then Georgia also has 2 of the top 60 ranked doubles teams. So I got to hand it to John Roddick. This is a really good test to start off the season for this men's tennis team.
Elo, John Roddick is going to the Tiffany Roberts Sahadak School of Scheduling on this one, isn't he?
Yeah, he always does. And I'm not going to comment on the rankings because we've had Coach Roddick on the show, and you know how he feels about rankings at this time of year.
He does not like rankings at all.
So I'm just going to stay away from that because I'm not going to get in the doghouse. But look, it's going to be exciting. Pretty remarkable to have the tennis teams ranked that high, though, this early, and it's going to be a marquee matchup.
All right, last little bit too for you, Bryson. The indoor track and field season gets underway, which is my jam. You know how much I love track and field, which means we get our very first. They're actually going to start their season at Clemson, and which means we get our very first look this season for UCF women's track and field.
Yep, I'm very excited. We're going to be seeing a few of the cross country stars back, like Valerie Lastra. Very excited to see her again in some of the longer distance events. But I think that the more general UCF fans might be more excited at the prospect of seeing Renaya Jones back for the first time.
She's back
for the first time since her run at the Olympic trials. So I am very excited to see her do indoor, because Dana Boone mentioned this in a video on the UCF track and field cross country Twitter account, that they haven't really had a proper indoor season in 2 years. So this will be a very interesting change of pace for some of these younger players like Renaya, who haven't really had a regular indoor season yet. But all the same, our girl's back, and I am very excited to see what she'll do as they get started against Clemson, which is going to be on Friday and Saturday. Also, one more thing that I wanted to make sure we mentioned is that if you're here local, you'll be able to see this. ESPN Wide World of Sports, the cheer and dance squads are going to be competing at nationals this weekend. And so what's cool, if you were at the women's basketball game on Tuesday against Houston, or the men's basketball game against Memphis, you actually saw them practicing their routines for that competition. They used those basketball games to practice them. Basically, they're going to be competing on Friday and Saturday, and they're on jazz routine, hip hop competition.
That's Night Moves, the dance team, and then the cheerleaders. The national finals are Sunday. It's at the Wide World of Sports, like you said, but they delay the broadcast. They won't go up for like another Bryson, another month or so.
Yeah, but though obviously everybody will be following it on social media.
Actually, the weekend's competition is going to be streamed live on varsitytv.com.
There you go.
So you can.
I think you got to pay for that.
You gotta pay to watch people cheer. Holy smokes!
Oh, that's just what it says.
Hey, man. Do not call that out, man. Like, you are
listen, my only issue
social
is
media mob.
In my opinion, they should expand the playoff in cheerleading. I think it's a bogus title anyway. It's, unless we win, then it's legit.
Would UCF getting a gymnastics team satisfy you, Eric? Because that's the closest thing we have.
Let me tell you something.
Come on, conference commissioners.
I will say this, and I say this in all truth and honesty, okay? No UCF sports team has a more difficult path to win a national championship than cheerleading. You know why? Everyone else's season lasts what? Football lasts 13, 14 games, 12, 13, 14 games. Basketball's 30 games. Baseball's 50 games. You know what cheerleading has? 3 minutes. 3 minutes to win it. It decides your whole season. So, let me tell you, they're looking for their 4th national championship this year.
Hey, they finished runner-up last year, so I have to imagine that they're going to be hungry to do that.
Yeah, so
that's
gonna be big.
Saturday to Monday, streaming live on varsitytv.com.
Expand the playoff. Let's go.
You can also you can also visit the ESPN Wide World of Sports if you're up to go and watch that. It's gonna be over there. Cheerleading team. You got the hip hop and jazz dances as well. Good luck. I mean, Coach Gooch has certainly had a very good pedigree with this team, and I'm very excited to.
The South dominates cheerleading too, Kyle, just so you know.
Oh, I'm aware.
Yes. All right. Let's wrap this thing up here. We've got, by the way, tremendous thanks once again to all of you for listening. If you don't subscribe to our podcast, you can do so via Apple or wherever you get your podcasts via your Android devices. You can follow us at UCF Banneret _SBN. UCF Banneret _SBN is our Twitter handle. You can follow each of us individually at It's Bryson Turner, Eric Lopez Elo, the SOTG, which stands for the student of the game, and of course yours truly at Jeff _Sharon, and follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com, where, by the way, gentlemen, the last few days our #1 rated article, and it has stayed our most read every day. That little counter resets every day. Our transfer portal tracker.
Nice.
So we'll keep that updated. I know that Drew, Statboy Drew on Twitter is going to. Andrew Glukov is helping us keep that updated. I'm helping keep that updated. Bryson has been fantastic at updating that thing. It's going to be. It's as the booms come in, we update that transfer portal tracker so you can see what UCF is up to. And of course, we have women's basketball this weekend. We got men's basketball as well. This is going to be as we head into this mid-January stretch, man. Here we go.
Finally, tennis something else other than basketball. Not that I don't love it, but there's tennis, more. There's more stuff.
Oh, believe me, there's going to be a lot of stuff coming. If you're getting bored, Bryson, believe me, we got some stuff coming for you in the next couple weeks here as the spring sports fire up. Ain't that right, boys?
And in the meantime, update the tracker.
Update the tracker. So, for all of us here at Black and Gold Banneret, for Eric Lopez, Bryson Turner, and Kyle Nash, I'm Jeff Sharon saying thank you so much for listening. This has been the Black and Gold Banneret Podcast. Enjoy the weekend.